My copy of Sunbreak was provided by Capcom. Thanks, Capcom. Hey, how's it going, guys? Peak Ginge here, and Sunbreak season is well and truly in full swing. Folks all around the world are getting stuck in. Some have only versed their first Daimyo Hermitor, others are already well and truly past the final boss, but something we can all agree on is that new Monster Hunter is always a good thing. Unless you really hate Rise a lot, in which case you probably don't actually agree with that at all. I myself haven't had the chance to play quite as much Sunbreak as I would have liked over the past couple of days, but sometimes that's just how it goes. There will be a review coming, but that's not what this is. This is just my thoughts on a specific monster. As of recording this, I've just hit MR3, and with that comes one of the main monsters of this whole expansion as its gatekeeper, Garangolm. A fanged beast that is the third of the three lords revealed, and a big part of the marketing heading into Sunbreak. Garangolm adds a fresh new face to a class of monsters that has been diversifying more and more in recent generations. Today, I want to talk about it after I fought only one, to see just how much I missed and how my opinion might change as I grind it in the future. If I grind it in the future, that is. So let's get stuck in. Here is my first Garangolm hunt and my thoughts on the new monster. I'll try to avoid spoilers in this video, but there will be footage of Garangolm and the Citadel map. So straight out the gate, my first reaction was, isn't this thing supposed to be like way bigger than this? I was surprised that Garangolm wasn't quite the titan I expected, and the one I hunted wasn't even a miniature crown size or anything. It just isn't quite as gigantic as the game would have you believe. That aside, it's apparent that Garangolm has a unique rig and moveset that's been made just for it, with a variety of punching and slamming moves that only it uses, from what I've seen so far at least. The majority of its attacks in this normal form are focused around it just throwing its weight around, standard monkey stuff. It often uses a body slam attack where it leaps into the air and slams back down, something I misread on more than one occasion, an attack where it rips a gigantic rock from the ground that will crush the hunter, very reminiscent of the Rajang, and a series of punches, nothing too flashy. As with every other monster, it then transitions to its rage mode. Oh, and ignore the abysmal greatsword gameplay please, I've just picked it up again for Sunbreak, having barely touched it in base Rise. It's a learning process, When Garangolm becomes enraged, it shoves its hands in the ground, and when it pulls them out, one is covered in molten rock and the other in mossy rock, and it gains access to water attacks and either blast or fire. I couldn't really tell, but I know I had Blast Bite a few times in this hunt. This is when I carded for the first time, and it wasn't even really one of the new moves, it was just to a body slam. You see, I have a bit of a problem with overcommitting to charge slashes on the old greatsword, something I pay for a lot, but when you do see those 4-digit damage numbers, it makes it all worthwhile, Anyway, back to Garangolm. The rage mode certainly shakes up the fight quite a bit, and it's not that common that you'll see a monster that completely gains a new moveset when enraged, instead of just being faster. My personal favorite is when it punches the ground with its blast fist, which then explodes into the air and repositions itself, usually behind you. Good, fun, nonsensical stuff like that just tickles me just right. It has a few new combos in this rage mode, such as a follow-up punch after the reposition, and a chain of quick body slams to catch you off guard. And it'll even have these little explosions of steam when it attacks with both elements at the same time, which was a pretty cool detail, I thought. Once you get far enough into the fight, Garangolm then goes into what I suppose is a secondary rage mode. I'm not yet sure what triggers this, whether it's a HP threshold or it's based on what parts you break, but he gets even more wild. When shoving his hands into the ground, he now also does his face as well, getting bits of mossy and molten rock all over it, making it a more formidable weapon along with its arms. Yeah, I carded here again as well. Just a case of the good old knock to the ground with no wire bugs to wire fall away when it's comboing you. Pretty standard stuff. In this mode, it also gains a juggle, very similar to Magnamalo, where it flings you into the air with its head before setting off a big explosion, which will probably knock you out cold if it lands. In general, it uses its head a lot more in this second rage phase, dragging it along the ground to attack you, and it reminds me of a monster from an old Monster Hunter game, but I can't quite put my finger on which monster it is. Someone will surely remind me in the comments down below. This mode has a bunch of combos that Garangolm will perform, and when it strikes with both of its arms or its face, those explosions of steam seem to be even bigger and come out for a good amount of damage. It will then finish off this mode with a big old area-wide attack where it rips a gigantic rock out of the ground before superheating it and making it explode, also doing a significant amount of damage. I didn't almost 3-cart, you did. Shut up. The fight kind of winds down from there. Well, it did for me at least, and I captured it just to be safe. The timer overall hit about 15 minutes, which for a standard Rise hunt is kind of on the long side, but nothing crazy, I would say. Obviously, my play is far from optimized as well. After this hunt, a cutscene plays, but I'll leave that for you all to see for yourselves and keep the spoilers to a minimum. So with the hunt down and my first Garangolm capture, what are my thoughts? Overall, I would say Garangolm is pretty much exactly what I expected, aside from the size, as I said. On that note, there was also a gigantic Barrioth in the quest that just made Garangolm seem even smaller, which obviously didn't help. It's It's slow but powerful with some surprising bursts of speed here and there that help catch you off guard. It was a pleasant surprise that I almost 3-carded. That's not a common experience in Rise, but the first card was less about Garangolm being strong and more about me being dumb. I'm a big fan of the multiple element thing as well. I always think it's cool when they shake up a monster mid-hunt, and I'm sure this would have been a huge surprise for folks going in completely blind. I personally did my best to avoid any info outside of the announcement trailers, but I was still aware of the dual elements. My favorite part of the hunt was certainly the finisher attack from Garangolm's Rage mode. I certainly wasn't expecting it, hence why it almost killed me, along with the transition to the second phase Rage mode, another pleasant surprise. I think Garangolm was executed pretty much exactly how they intended, but I wouldn't say it's the powerhouse it could be. Much like Gammoth in Generations, it suffers a bit from the hunters being so much more mobile than it is, and I'm pretty confident that if I was using a faster weapon and wasn't so greedy, I probably wouldn't have carded at all. Honestly, to be a little bit negative for a moment, it feels like Garangolm should be a bit higher up in the food chain, a bit higher on the difficulty level. It's supposed to be one of the 3 Lords of Elgato, but it doesn't hit with quite as strong a punch as I wanted it to warrant such a title. I suppose I still have to wait to see what the rest of the expansion has in store. I know there's more to come that will be sure to surprise me. And that'll just about do it for this video, folks. A quick one, yes, but I just wanted to share my thoughts of Garangolm off rip, having just taken it down, and I intend to do so for some of the other new monsters like Lunagaran and Malzeno as well. I probably won't do it for the subspecies unless I feel they specifically warrant it, but we'll see what the future holds, eh? I hope you're all enjoying Sunbreak. I know I am, and I'm hoping to power through a good amount in the coming days, but no doubt something else will come up. Ain't that just always the way? Stay safe out there, folks. Keep dodging those spoilers, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you later.